Eight students. For today, we have a new topic, and it is about conditionals, conditional sentences. Okay, so what is a conditional sentence or conditionals? Basically, a conditional sentence is a type of sentence that states a condition and the outcome of that condition occurring. Okay, so conditional sentences are made up of dependent clause and an independent clause joined to express said condition. All right. So there are four main types of if sentences in English, often called conditional sentences. So the conditional sentences can also be called or is also known as an if sentence. Okay, so be sure to remember that. So an if sentence or a conditional sentence basically has two parts. Okay, the first one is the if clause, and the second one is the main clause, as we have discussed a while ago. Okay, a conditional sentence is made up of a dependent clause and an independent clause. So the first clause or our dependent clause is the if part. Okay, so the if part, I'll show you that later on, and then the other part where you can use words such as can, will, may, might, could, and would is also our main clause and is also known as our independent clause. Okay, so once again, a conditional sentence is made up of two clauses, and that's an independent clause and our independent clause. All right, so let's go to the first conditional or our zero conditional. Okay, so here's an example. If I am late for school, my teacher gets angry. So this is all presently happening. Okay, so if I am, so am is a present thing happening, right? Is a present is in present tense. Am. So if I am late for school, my teacher gets angry. So it means that the main clause, okay, is also going to be in present tense. Okay, so here's another example. If I oversleep, I miss the bus. Okay, so this is happening in present tense. So meaning, what does present tense mean? Present tense mean, okay? It's just happening right now. So a zero conditional sentence is a sentence that expresses a fact or simple implication. Okay, zero conditional statements express conditions that are always true and the conclusions of which can be drawn from their premises. Okay, so here we have another example. If I miss the bus, then I am late for school. So as you can see, if I oversleep, I miss the bus. And if I miss the bus, I am late for school, right? So there's a pattern to that. And if I am late for school, my teacher gets angry. Now let's move on to the first conditional, which is going to be if, oh, actually no. If, then present tense. So this is not present tense. It's actually present simple tense. Oh, yeah, so I'm still correct. So now we're gonna go for present tense. So if plus present tense, okay, then the main clause will have will, can, may, or must plus a verb. Okay, the previous one we only had present simple. Okay, so it's also a present tense. But this time we need to have will, can, may, or must. So before we didn't need that, right? If you look at the example here, if I oversleep, I miss the bus. If I miss the bus, I am late for school. If I am late at school, my teacher gets angry. So there's nothing there that you will, there's no word there like will, can, may, or must, okay? But in this first conditional, we must see a will or can or may and a must in our main clause. So here's the first example. If I go to London, I will see the Big Ben, okay? So here we have another example. If I go to London, I will see the Big Ben. If I go to the Buckingham Palace, I can take a photo of the Royal Guard. If you go to London, you must look right before crossing a street. Okay? So a first conditional sentence is a sentence that expresses an idea that might happen at some point in the future. Okay? So that's why we have those additional words like must, take, must, can, and will, and must. Okay? Because didn't happen yet, or it's not happening yet, it might happen in the future, okay? It is something that is possible, but it's certainly certain, but its certainty is unknown because it depends on another event. Yeah? So if you go to London, you will see the Big Ben. But if you don't go to London, then you won't see the Big Ben, right? So our main clause depends entirely on our if clause. Okay, so let's move on to the second conditional. This time it's past simple. So our if clause must have a past, and then our main clause should also have a past, or these three words over here. Sorry. Would, could, and might, plus a verb, of course. Okay, so the example we have here, if I were an astronaut, I would travel in a spaceship, right? So if I were an astronaut, I would travel in a spaceship. So let's complete that. If I were an astronaut, I would travel in a spaceship. If I traveled in a spaceship, I would go to Mars. If I went to Mars, I would meet a Martian, right? So those are the examples that we have. So the second conditional sentence, or a second conditional sentence, is just a sentence that can express two ideas. Okay. First, it might express things in the future that are unlikely to happen, not gonna happen. Okay. So that's the first part. That's the first idea. As I said, there's two ideas. So the first one, again, is it might express things in the future that are unlikely to happen. Okay? Second idea that it might express is something that, wait, let me read it. Second, it is used to express an idea that is not true because it is impossible. Okay? So like here in the example we have here on screen right now, if I went to Mars, so it is unlikely for us to go to Mars, but if you're really an astronaut, then it's also unlikely because there has never been an exploration team that has been sent to Mars. Only unmanned vehicles or unmanned rockets have been sent there. Okay, so it's unlikely, but in the future it might happen. Okay, but the second part that we have is I would meet a Martian, which is impossible. Okay, because I know we're still looking for proof, but as of right now, there's no proof that Martians exist. So technically, it's impossible. Okay. Here's the same thing, right? If I travel in a spaceship, or can it be a rocket? Either of those things will say that it's true. Okay. If I travel in a spaceship, there's a possibility of it happening again if you can volunteer or something like that. I would go to Mars. Again, going to Mars is something not yet being addressed. So there's no possibility in that. So let's move on to the next one, shall we? Boop, boop. Boop. Oh, there's more, but we won't need it. We don't need those. So for the last one that we have here is the third conditional. Yeah? So what is the third conditional? So if plus a past perfect tense. Okay? Then your main clause should have would, could, and might. Or might. Plus have. It should also have a have. Okay? Plus the past participle. Okay, so the first example we have, if I had studied hard, I would have passed my exam, right? So let's continue on. If you had studied hard, you wouldn't have failed your exam. If you had passed your exam, you could have gone to the beach. If I had gone to the beach, I would have made sandcastles, okay? So here's a little bit more explanation about that. Let me just bring it up. Okay, so our third conditional sentence, or the third conditional sentence, expresses a past idea that did not occur. Okay, so the third conditional sentence expresses an imagined result of the past event that did not occur. In other words, it is unreal. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, so if we look at our example right here, if I had gone to the beach, I would have made sandcastles, right? But he didn't go to the beach and he didn't make any sandcastles. Okay, so it technically did not happen at all. There's no possibility of it happening, and it did not happen. It is completely unreal. Okay. With the example over here, our first example also, if you had studied hard, you wouldn't have failed your exam. Okay? So in the first place, he didn't study hard, so he failed his exam. Okay? So that's it for today. I hope you learned something new today about conditional sentences. I'll see you guys in the next video. Actually, before I cut, right? Uh, here are some cues that you can use, or here are some clues that you can use in the future. I'll just leave it here.